So I've been working really hard at my job recently. I've probably worked most weekends and only really taken a break when I felt I really needed to. And that's usually when 2 p.m. hits at my job and I feel like I'm just not producing anything. So I go home and I take a big nap. Strangely, I feel kind of like I understand what Steve Jobs said when he said, at Apple, you'll work harder than you ever have, but the tools will feel light in your hands. This is probably true. I work a lot, but it feels really energizing actually to be working towards a future that I want to build. What I want to say is, in the future, I don't think I'll regret working this hard during this period of my life. Jeff Bezos has this idea called the regret minimization framework. It's a framework for making decisions that are difficult. And he essentially says you should do the thing that when you're 80 and you're on your deathbed, you look back and regret the least.
So I wanted to project myself forward to age 80 and say, okay, now I'm looking back on my life. I want to have minimized the number of regrets I have.
You don't want to not take a big risk or pursue a new opportunity just because you're scared, because it's more likely when you're 80 that you'll regret not taking that opportunity rather than taking it. Very people regret the things that they've done. They often regret the things that they haven't done or didn't do. So working hard and working towards some grandiose future for myself is actually really energizing because I don't think I'll be older and look back on this period of my life and regret trying to create something of myself. Maybe I'll regret working too hard and stopping to smell the roses. I think that's something I could work on a little more. But in general, I think I would regret more if I didn't take this bet on myself and really invest in myself. So it feels great to be doing that. Having said all that, I wanted to take some time and reflect on, well, I'm 23 now. I've lived some life, not a lot, but what do I actually regret from my first 23 years of being alive? I made a lot of mistakes. I talked about my failed ambitions to be a writer in a previous episode, but I far from regret trying to be a writer. It was a really interesting experience, and I have 2 novels now that I've written that I can say I really put effort into. So what do I actually regret? I came up with two. There's probably a lot more that I'm not thinking of, but there are two that actually stand out in my life. Maybe this points to how rare our regrets actually end up being, but two things I wish I'd done differently. First, I wish I'd started Accutane earlier. It took me until probably senior year of college to get on Accutane, and by that point in my life, I'd spent probably close to a decade with moderate cystic acne. That's left me with some scars. I'm doing things to combat that scarring today, but I think if I'd gone on Accutane earlier and not wasted my time sort of wondering if it would be right for me, then I would have a lot less scars today. So that's one thing I could have done earlier. The second is not being more systematic when it came to starting my lampshade business. I'll probably talk about this in a different time, but I tried to start a lampshade business earlier this year, and it all kind of blew up in my face when a competitor threatened to sue me. And that was a really difficult time, frankly. I was doubting myself and constantly stressed for a period of almost a month, and it was really psychologically difficult. I think a lot of that pain could have been avoided if I'd just taken the time to be more systematic about the business as I was beginning it. In retrospect, I don't blame myself, but I do wish I had been a little more sort of calculated when it came to how that business was going to be executed from day one. I was sort of taking it on a week-by-week basis. Like 1 week I went super viral and thought that was going to change everything. And then the next week I needed to contact a manufacturer in China. And the next week I wanted to change the design of the prototype because I thought I was going to be sued. And then the next week I thought I wouldn't be sued. Basically, I was being very reactive in my approach to business when I could have been more proactive. Maybe thought out all of the existential risks of the company before putting so much time and effort into it, and tried to combat those to the extent possible. Now, the ability for us to sort of foresee the existential risks to any company is probably generally overestimated. I think there is also merit to having a bias for action and just getting in there and trying to do it. So I don't think that this was a terrible decision on my part to just go with the company and deal with the blows as they came. But I think I could have been maybe 10% better in my approach if I'd been a little more proactive, just taking a few more days to think about it beforehand. So yeah, if I'd started Accutane earlier and been a little more calculated with the lampshade thing, I think my life would have been marginally better. But those things are in the past, and I've learned from them. When it comes to starting the 20% project I talked about last episode, I'm going to try to be much more systematic this time. Take more time to think about my approach and what this project is going to look like on a quarter-by-quarter basis and even year-by-year basis, because it's probably a cheap thing to plan right now, even if that plan is wrong. And you're probably better with the plan than without one. All right, take care.